What's going on, guys? Back at it with the world's fastest Zuma 50F. Look at this thing. Yeah, it's two-stroked, it's fast, it's quick, it's running. Hey, so we got a couple of problems. There's a couple of problems that we need to address in this video. A couple of problems I think I've solved. We're gonna get to it. And the first biggest one is this fuel issue. So the biggest issue that we're having right now is this fuel pump. We're going to be getting rid of this vacuum setup that we had before. I'm going to be switching back to the electric fuel pump. I'm going to be using that controller I showed you in the other video, and then I'm going to be revealing the price of how much I paid for that controller versus the ones that they're selling right now in a bunch of stores. And then we'll probably throw the plastics back on this thing, swap the front wheel, fix all these cracks, because that looks gross. Fix all the cracks and then go for another ride. So this thing's gonna be sick. This thing is sick. This is the world's fastest Zuma. You gotta love it. It's two-stroke now. This is how it should have came from factory. This thing looks awesome. It looks different than other Zumas. It handles different than the others. Sorry guys, camera died already, but listen, we put the factory fuel pump back in its housing. You just push it in, clip it back in, and then we're actually gonna try to wire up this fuel level sender to the factory gauge wires, which is right over here, I believe. Yep, these two. This one is the oil, we don't need that one. This one right here is the fuel. So we're gonna try to wire those two back up. We're gonna stick this gas pump back in, so we're gonna use the factory fuel pump from the 4-stroke fuel injected setup. Put this back in here. We still have this line going to our carb. All right, and just like that, fuel pump's back in there installed. All right guys, so now I'm going to be showing you this controller that I have, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to be wiring it back up. So this right here is the factory plug for the fuel pump. So this is going to go clip right back in there like factory. You find the wires for it. In this case, it's the blue and the red one with the black stripes on both of the wires. And these two right here, the green and the black, coincide with the green and the black over here for the fuel level. So that works out perfectly too. This bike is almost plug and play. So this is the controller. What it does, it works from 7 to 70 volts. So we're only working with the 12 volt range. This bike's 12 volts. So what we're gonna do is take that 12 volts and we're gonna try to slow it down as much as possible, or as much that we need, that the bowl doesn't overflow in the carburetor. Right here is the pinouts. This says input. So you're gonna put a power and negative from your battery, and then right here it says M. This goes to your motor. So positive and negative to the motor. So I actually found this thing when I used to modify my son's power wheels a lot. So I know I was using this to slow them down. So when I seen that I need to slow down the fuel pump, and I seen the prices of those controllers, they're going for like $150 to like $180 on some of them. So I was like, you know what, let's give this a try. This is only $15. I'll leave the link in the description if you want to try it. I'm sure it's not waterproof. It's definitely not waterproof, but this thing is $15. Like, you can't beat it. So we're gonna use this. We're gonna put this on here. It's gonna slow down our fuel pump, and it's gonna give us the proper level that we need to get that carburetor right. So this right here, this is my little tester that I use. This converts a Milwaukee battery to a 12 volt system. So pretty much it takes 18 volts, it kills it down to 12, it dumbs it down to 12 volts, and then it spits out 12 volts from here. So I'm gonna wire this into this. So this is gonna be our battery for right now, but in other case, when I'm done with it, this is gonna go straight to the battery underneath the seat, and then I'm gonna figure out where I need to mount this. But for right now, I'm gonna wire this in here so we have some temporary power. I like to use this little Milwaukee power adapter for a lot of things, especially a lot of testing, because I'm not, well, I don't have to power up the whole system. I can just power up certain things that I want to test them at a time. So this comes in handy. I'm gonna clip this in. Actually, I'm gonna take this hose off. Jeez, that's up there. Whoa. Take that hose off, and I'm gonna put this one on just so I can demonstrate for you guys how this is gonna work. Just takes a regular Milwaukee battery. So this hose right here is coming from the fuel pump, and what I'm gonna be doing over here is controlling the flow, or essentially the voltage going to the fuel pump, which is going to slow down the amount of gas coming out of this thing. So this thing is carbureted. We don't need too much PSI. So first I'm gonna turn it on, and then I'm gonna start adjusting the fuel up. There you go. And then I'm gonna turn it all the way up so you guys can see. But that's 12 volts. See that? And I'm gonna slow it down. Look, that's gonna work perfect for what we need. So now I'm gonna wire this thing in temporarily, make sure it all works, and then we are going to start working on the plastics, putting this thing back together, and then we're gonna go for a little test ride. All right guys, so actually what we're gonna do first, while this is all open and I don't wanna cover anything up, I'm actually going to show you guys how I am going to try to stitch this plastic back together until I get a new one. This has so many cracks in the bottom of it, so I'm just gonna try to drill some holes in it. I'm gonna run some zip ties through them. I was gonna plastic weld it, but I'd rather just buy this whole thing new. This thing is pretty shot. So I'm gonna zip tie this all up together and stitch it up. It's gonna be nice and strong, and it's gonna get us by for now. Zip tied all this up, stitched all that up so it's nice and back together for now. Fix this little tab. I just got to cut a couple of zip ties over here. I'll probably zip tie all this up, get this good to go. I ordered a new ignition that should be here soon. What else do we got going on? This can go and be eliminated. This vacuum line that's being ran to it also right here, this can be plugged up. And then I guess we'll start. Actually, we can get rid of all this. We don't need any of that stuff. What else can we get rid of on this bike? All right, I guess that's it for now. We'll just get rid of a few of those things. We'll put the plastics back on, and we'll see if we can get this floor to lay down nice too. And then also throw that wiring in there so we don't have to undo it again. And then I got to figure out where exactly I want to mount this thing. So yeah, let's get to it. Back at it, guys. So now we're going to try to take off this front wheel. It's going to be kind of difficult because we don't have a center stand on this thing, and it's going to be a little wobbly, but we're going to get it done. We're going to take off this wheel, see if the other wheel fits on there. I'm hoping it does. Cross your fingers for me. Let's do it. Alright guys, so this is the 50F wheel, this is the bug eye wheel, and it looks like the 50F rotor is a little bit bigger than the bug eye one. So I'm gonna try to swap them over. Those look like the same bolt pattern. This wheel is 0.5 of an inch narrower than the bug eye wheel is, so we're going to try to make that work. And also the diameter of this spacer is bigger than this, but the bolts, the inside diameter is the same. So the OD is bigger, but the ID is the same. So that's good news. So we can use the same bolt, but we have to figure out what we have to do with that. So we might have to cut some of these bearings down just to center the wheel up a little bit, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue. Let's throw this thing in. Let's see if it works before we swap the rotor over, and to see before we waste any time. So let's do that. And I think the speedo is going to be exactly the same as well, because I lined them both up to each other and they were the same diameter. So here it goes. Let's try to do this, man. Alright guys, you can see it, we're dangerously close. There's a lip on this fork tube that probably extends out maybe a 1/4 inch. So instead of taking it off the fork leg, we're gonna take it off this little spacer right here. So I'm gonna take off maybe just shy of a 1/4 inch. I'm gonna go a little by little and then see if I can wiggle this thing in. But we are right there. Once I do that, and that thing's pretty centered up too. Once we get the thing, I know it looks cockeyed right here, but once it's on straight, it looks pretty centered. So just take a little bit off this spacer and I think we'll be good to go. All right guys, so I got it all marked out, what I got to cut. You can see right there, it's about, I don't know, just shy of a 1/4 of an inch. So I'm just gonna sneak up on that line, tested it so often, make sure we got the right thing, and then go from there. All right guys, so you can see I got the wheel on, the bolts on, everything's lined up, it's perfectly centered where it needs to be. But the next issue I'm having right now is this rotor. I tried to put the caliper in just to see if it would work with this rotor, but the rotor is sitting too close to the fork. So I already see the issue, but I'm going to take it off so I can explain to you a little bit better what's going on. Alright guys, so here's the rotor from the bug eye and here's the rotor from the 50F. They are actually the same size. They looked a little bit bigger and they are the same bolt pattern. Oh, there we go. There we go. Same bolt pattern, so that's good. So I believe they're gonna work. The reason why the bug eye one didn't fit is because this one has a bump out and this one lays flush and flat. So this is the one that we're gonna use. I think that it'll work. The only issue that I do see with this is that these bolts for the bug eye one are skinnier than the bolts that go inside of the 50F. They're a lot fatter. So, and they sit in there a lot better. So I'm gonna try to make it work. I think it'll be fine all in all, but we won't know until we try. All right, so there is a problem. This right here, this center bore is bigger on the bug eye one than it is on the 50F. So either I need to get rid of this lip, which I'm not going to do, or open this one up. So I'm gonna open up the rotor a little bit so it fits centered on this, right on the bug eye wheel. But after I do that, I'm pretty confident that this would all work. All right guys, so I got that all marked out. I'm gonna take the die grinder to it and then I'll try to open that up a little. I got this all die grinded out, covered in metal shavings, getting stabbed everywhere. But this is all die grinded out and now it should fit, look at that, perfectly, right there. So now the rotor is on, it's got to put the bolts in it. All right, so if you go to do this, just make sure that you get that hole in the center. You could tell that you're lined up because the bolt hole will be perfectly in the center as well. So make sure you get this center bore centered. This has to be perfect or your brake rotor is gonna be all wonky. There we go, look at that. Perfect. I'll leave like that for now. And then this brake caliper hopefully goes on without a problem. And we will be all set, man. And keep that brake pad open. Here we go, look at that. I swear, it's like I know what I'm doing. You would really think I know what I'm doing. There it is, guys. The front end's complete. So I know what some of you are saying, why don't you just swap the fork legs? The fork legs are a different size. I'll show you right now. These are 2002 front shock, and it looks like this is bigger than that one. So I didn't swap them because then I have to swap the whole triple tree and stuff like that, and I didn't want to take everything off, even though I could have because I do have another one laying around, but I want to keep this as much 50F as possible, and that wasn't too bad making that rotor work, and that looks badass with those wheels. So look at this thing's cool. Let's take this thing off the table. Let's take it for a ride. Oh, actually, no, we have to finish hooking up the fuel pump. Let's hook up that fuel pump first, and then we'll take it for a ride with the new fuel pump on, and hopefully that will solve that dying issue. Got the wheel on. The brakes work. All the plastics are on. I'm missing the rear rack. I'll get that. Got the little box wired in. Temporarily, I'm gonna probably put that to a switch, or maybe it's even to like just the ignition. What else do we got going on here? Everything's done, man. I'm gonna lower this table down. We're gonna start this thing up and let it idle. Make sure it's running with the fuel pump again, and then we'll take this thing out on this first ride, or second ride. Yeah, first kick. Rattle noise inside of here. Definitely got to take that apart and take a look at it. Alright, here she is, guys. Outside, complete, and two-stroked. The fastest 50F ever is almost done. Look, I got the gas gauge working. The brakes are working. Look at that front wheel. That front wheel came out mint. Factory. We're gonna take this thing on a ride, make sure this thing's not breaking up top end now with the new fuel pump. This is how this thing should have came, I swear to God. Alright guys, so after some fine tuning with that little controller, I have it all dialed in, and it's not dying on me when I drive it, so give you guys a little sample of this power. so weird pumping this thing into the floor. Cheers to you 50F guys. This thing's not cutting out no more. This thing's running amazing. I'm liking that a lot. But I'm about to put it to the ultimate test. The ultimate two-stroke test. Here you guys have it, the world's fastest 50F ever. Check it out. This two-stroke swap on this 50F is incredible. It feels completely different than a bug eye as far as wheeling. I definitely need like a week or two just practicing on this thing, but I know I can definitely wheelie this thing. It wants to lift up. It doesn't have an air box right now. This thing's running no air box right now, so those last couple test rides we saw was all with no air box. The acceleration's kind of crappy, I know, but it definitely still moves. It definitely still does 60 kilometers per hour, 40 miles per hour for all those in the US. So check it out. We're gonna keep making this thing faster because it already is the fastest 50F ever, but we're gonna make it even the more faster 50F ever, if that makes sense. So keep watching. You guys know what to do. Peace.